panelists. Thank you for doing Hydrogen 101. Actually, that was my plan, was Hydrogen 101. We actually got to 201 and a little bit into the master's program there. Some pretty advanced hydrogen stuff. I will be focusing a little bit more on the EVOX itself and the EV charging and backup capabilities of the EVOX, as that's where I fit in. That's my history and my knowledge base. Can you hear me now? All right? Yep. All right. So again, thank you for coming. Huge thanks to GenCell's entire staff for supporting me on this. I've been working on getting everyone here for quite a while now. Love to expose people to the CMC that haven't been here, and then of course to the EVOX, which is the most important part for me. So we're going to talk a little bit today about bridge power for EV charging. That's going to be my main focus, but then we'll talk about building backup as well. We'll see some examples of what the EVOX can do and how quickly it can do it. How many of the people in here really care about EV charging and specifically fast charging? All right, so it's your job to get fast charging out there, or you're driving an electric vehicle and you're driving it out in the wild, so you know exactly what it is to have a little bit of range anxiety or not know where the next place to charge is going to be. And I'm positive if you own an electric vehicle that you've run into the situation where you find a fast charger and it doesn't work. So that's going to be something that I touch on a little bit as well. You've all seen this because you are here, and so you've seen the invite that I plastered out to about 1,000 people. The important ones obviously all showed up, so thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. A little bit about GenCell. GenCell has 130 employees, 18 PhDs. I'm working on mine, so it'll be 19 pretty soon. That's a joke. I'm too old for that. Approximately 35 patents pending or already registered, and tons and tons of great ideas and a diverse workforce as well. We got all the GenCell guys here today, but the ladies couldn't make it. There are a bunch of them there though, and they've been a huge help. So if they're watching this later, thank you all. And Rami, thank you very much for helping me put this whole thing on. I'm a little trigger happy, sorry. So what are our challenges here? As we are moving everything to electricity in California, we've all seen this. We want to go to heat pumps, we want to get rid of gas stoves, and of course the cars are moving to electricity. As we get to that level, as we're heating and cooling our houses from electricity, as we're filling our cars with electricity, we're going to have unstable prices, and prices are going to fluctuate throughout the day. So keep that in mind as we go that route. Once everything is electric and there's no fuel behind it, there's kind of a monopoly. So we got to keep an eye on that. Keep that in your mind. We know that electricity is cheaper at some times a day than the rest of the time. So we'll see how the EVOX can help with that, especially if it's your business to move and store electricity around. The ACF, the Advanced Clean Fleets, if you're here specifically because you are being mandated to go to electric vehicles and you have no idea how you're going to charge them, we're going to talk about that. And I see some heads shaking out there, so I know that some of you are here specifically because you've got to find out how am I going to get charging to my building. I personally have experienced that. Aaron from Community Resource Project is in the back of the room. He brought one of his vehicles out here. I've been working with him for 6 years now. We sold a bunch of vehicles in there 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and we did not have enough power to charge them all. And it was painful, more so for Aaron than for me, but painful for everyone involved. So I kind of vowed to never have that happen again, and that's why I'm here with GenCell, to help the charging portion of the EV transition, because we are transitioning to electric vehicles. Make no doubt about it. You will hear FUD left and right. The oil companies aren't very excited about it, but we're transitioning. Not only in our personal cars, the school bus here behind us, the electric trucks out here for delivery, Amazon is going electric. It's happening. So think about that. I just made this slide, so I should have this all memorized, so excuse me. Publicly available chargers. I mentioned this earlier. There are some publicly available chargers that you can always count on, and there are others that you cannot. And you probably know where those are. So the idea, part of the idea, and something that SMUD and SAC-RT and the AQMD are working on, is getting more fast chargers out there in the public, which is great. I can't wait to see it. But right now, if you're out in the wild, most of us charge at home if we have an electric vehicle, but if you're out in the wild and you need to charge, yeah, it's a crapshoot. It really, really, truly is. And it's no fun having that anxiety, especially when you promised your wife you would get to the birthday party in San Luis Obispo on time, and you got to go 25 miles out of the way. I'm just making this up. That didn't really happen. It did. And outages, you know. We are, right now we're in SMUD territory, very stable utility. If you've never lived anywhere else, the power goes out a lot. I was at Calusa Indian Energy the other day. They completely microgridded their casino, hotel, reservation, and will be sending energy into the city of Calusa. Why? Because they had 50 outages in 1 year. That's one a week. Can you imagine if your business is slot machines and your power goes out? You're losing $100,000 an hour or more, probably more. So anyway, in other places the power does go out. The more we have wildfires, the more we're going to have planned outages and forced outages. So how do you keep charging your car if the power's out? Well, you need some sort of backup, some battery, and what we're going to talk about, we've already talked about it a little bit, you need a fuel. We can't charge electric cars with diesel generators. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, technically it's possible, but if you're going to do it, especially if you're a company trying to sell electric cars, it's not going to look good. So keep all of those in mind, and as well, the utilities cannot provide 483 phase when you want it, where you want it. It's just not going to happen for a while. There are a lot of factors. A lot of people want to blame electric cars for this, but quite honestly, it's the data centers that are sucking up all the energy and all the power. So if you are trying to put in a fast charger at a location, good luck. You might be waiting 18 months, you might be waiting 2 years to get that power necessary. So that's what I'm really here to talk about, is how do you get that power, get it quickly, and get it today. And when I say today, I'll show you what we've done out there, but you've seen it. You walked in here past the EVOX. We'll talk a little bit about how quickly that can be done. And that's the important part. Because if you tell me it's going to be 2 years before I can put in a fast charger, chances are I'm going to abandon the project. Plain and simple. It's just not going to happen. Let's go over a couple of use cases. I said we're transitioning to EV. I went to the ConAg Expo in Vegas last year. Every major manufacturer, be it construction or agriculture, had an electric tractor. So they're coming not only on the EV car side, but they're coming in the terms of agricultural and construction as well. Ports, the ports are mandated. Anybody from the ports here today? No, well, we had a couple people register from Port of Oakland. The ports are mandated to go electric with everything that they can. Ports are relatively filthy places. They got bunker fuel coming in on the tankers. They've got a lot of really heavy equipment. So they're being forced to mandate to electric. There's not enough power to do it. Between shore power and more power needed to charge the forklifts and the container handling equipment, that's quickly coming, and we need that bridge power. We need to bridge that gap. And if a port is down, I think Alex was telling me, if a port is down So $100,000 a minute or something that they can lose. That's a lot of money. So keeping the power up at the ports is important. And this might seem silly, but I included an ambulance in here because UCLA actually has an electric ambulance. And one of our early adopters, UCLA, is having an EVOX to make sure that they can always charge a vehicle. You lose grid connectivity, you can still charge off the battery. You drain down your battery, you can still charge with your hydrogen, right? So that ambulance can always be charged and can always go out. I broke my leg a couple years ago, and for many years I said, if they ever make an electric ambulance, I'll take the diesel one. Now, I'm more comfortable. I'm finally there, especially if there's a way to keep that thing charged, right? As I said, agricultural. We're going to touch on ammonia in a few minutes, but every farm in the country just about has some sort of ammonia on it. And that ammonia can also be a fuel source, which I'll get to in a minute. But besides the ammonia, farms often have a little extra land, at least on the buildings, so they can always do solar. Solar can be helpful in charging your electric vehicle if you have battery to store that solar energy. You can't just trickle charge your tractor all day because it needs to be working. But if you've got solar going into a battery energy storage system like the EVOX has, that's great use of that solar energy. Then charge your tractor at night, go out and work with it all day. We talked about the port power. This one's going to become more and more evident as these deadlines come into play. The ports do not have enough power. They're tapped out, plain and simple. They're very industrial areas, so we're going to need a way to deliver bridge power. The EVOX is one way to do that. Whether they be running on hydrogen because there's just not enough electricity, or if they're using the battery battery energy storage for storing all day and night, charging when necessary. Construction equipment, believe it or not, there is a lot more construction equipment out there than I ever imagined. I don't know why my computer likes to skip ahead. It wants me to hurry up. So I'll take note of that. But there's a ton of construction equipment coming out that is electric. More and more, like every time I see a new ad, that's going to come into play. Something else that construction sites need is power immediately. You show up at a construction site, and what do you bring? Generator. A lot of them bring their big generators, and you can do that for a little while, but as we talked about in the panel, diesel generators are not good for the environment. They're just, it's a really bad thing, especially if it's in your neighborhood. So think about power for the workspaces as well as for charging electric vehicles and all the power tools that people are using in construction sites as well. And emergency. Unfortunately, the city of Folsom, where I live, was not able to bring their police car here today, but they have 2 Tesla police cars. Are they here? Oh, thank you. And as I said, UCLA has an ambulance that is electric. So they are coming to the emergency realm. The important part of that is keeping them charged, keeping the vehicles charged. As you go more and more into electric fleets, you've got to keep them charged. For the police department, yes, they're always going to have gas cars. There's always going to be gasoline or diesel ambulances as a backup, but maybe not forever. So we're getting there. All right, we are at the CMC. I want to show you how quickly we can deploy electric vehicle DC fast charging. This building does not have 483 phase, so when I met Orville originally, he showed me that there was a fast charger here in a box. It's actually right on the other side of this panel, but there was no way to connect it. There's no 483 phase, so how are you going to fast charge if you don't have the power to do so? Well, you need bridge power, and that's what the EVOX does. So we showed up with the EVOX, let's say a month ago. We could have showed up a week ago and had it up and running exactly the way it is. We ran 208 3-phase out from the panel here to the EVOX. to run the battery, or to fill the battery and run the EVOX as normal, and that's exactly what you would do. Anywhere you have 208 three-phase, you can now put in DC fast charging, where before you were waiting for the utility to provide what you needed. We got that up and running, bringing the hydrogen. You have a hydrogen supply, so we could run it even if the 208 three-phase wasn't here. We could have been running it the whole time. If it was an emergency situation, we would have. We would have brought in the hydrogen, fired it up, charged the battery, charged the cars that were needed to be charged. Luckily, here we have the 208, and we can continue to operate that way. If we want to put solar on later, then we can integrate it and make a full-on microgrid here. The idea for that, hopefully our next step is to set up a permanent DC fast charging here, DC fast charging solution, maybe move the location of the EVOX so we gain back those parking spots, maybe put it around back, I don't know. But get a more permanent installation, put up solar, microgrid it, and add the DC fast chargers. Now this just became a e-mobility hub. This just became a charging location. Why is that important? Well, if you drive your way out of here, most of the companies here have fleet trucks. That ACF is going to force them all into electric trucks. Where are they going to charge? They can put in their own, slow charging, which is fine for a lot of fleet vehicles. They can charge overnight. But what if they're out all day and they need to come back home, refill, get more parts, and get an extra 100 miles of charging? You're not doing that with a slow charger, not anytime quickly. So it is important to have fast charging just about everywhere, especially as those larger vehicles with much bigger batteries are being deployed. Aaron knows, right, Aaron? All right, if you are with the AQMD or the e-mobility hub projects, you might recognize this piece of land. But imagine that you have a piece of land and you're going to build something on it. And what if the regulations were already here that all of your construction equipment had to be electric, but you don't have power on site, or you don't have adequate power? You can always roll up an EVOX just like we did here, bring in the hydrogen as an interim or as a backup, put out the fast chargers, and then bring in your construction equipment. It's a good way to get started. It's maybe still a little bit in the future, but know that it can be done. We could do this right now as it stands. And that same piece of property, if you're familiar with it, it's over at 41st and MLK, I believe. It has been transformed by Community Resource Project into this incredible resource center. This is the way it looks today, essentially. I had to go back a little ways to get it without the fence so that it would look better in the picture. But if you added an EVOX here, they don't have 483 phase there, as I understand it. So if you added an EVOX here, we would have the ability to have 480 volt three-phase power at the location. What does that do? Well, first off, it helps you put in a couple of chargers. So you now made an e-mobility hub in not 2 years, and not 18 months, and not 1 year. Literally in a month, a couple of weeks if you wish. If you can add solar over the parking lot, then you've got it fully microgridded. You're using the sun to charge your cars. Also, you always have the hydrogen as another level of backup. Why? Well, this particular location has not only the services center, which is important. It could be used as a cooling or heating center. It also has a bank teller and a grocery store. In this neighborhood, there's not a lot of access to really good grocery stores. And this particular location has a small grocery store with good food, with good healthy food. And I think it's about 4 miles, 5 miles to the local grocery store in this neighborhood. Might not seem that far, but if you don't have a car, it is. It's a long way. So it is a food desert. It's also a financial desert. So putting a bank with a real bank teller in here is important. All of those things need to stay up in an emergency. So this building, if it didn't have the power, one, you're going to lose access to that grocery store and that bank. But two, the grocery store is going to lose all the food. all the food in those freezers is going to go bad. So they got to give it away. Huh? Which they have. I asked Aaron, what do you do when the power goes out here? And luckily, again, it's mud, so it's not going out that often. But what they do is they get dry ice from everywhere they can, and they try to preserve as much of that food as possible. But imagine a store that is probably operating, you know, not on a super high profitability level, losing $5,000, $10,000 worth of food. That's not good for the community, it's not good for the store, it's not good for business. So being able to keep that location up and running is very important. I was asked earlier, are we running this whole building off of the EVOX right now? We aren't, but we could. That's the thing. We could. We've got it set up here for EV charging so that we can show you what it can do. What it can do with hydrogen, what it can do with 208 three-phase, and you know, what it could do with solar if we had it, but it could also back up the building. So keep that in mind. It's when we were talking about Texas earlier, really what we were talking about down in Texas is resiliency for the grid, for buildings, for heating and cooling centers. Not as much about charging, but as we go to more and more electric vehicles, they do need to be charged. So I love to hear the story about Florida, where there's going to be 1 million cars on the side of the highway because they couldn't get out of Florida because they couldn't charge. I don't see it happening, but you know, it's a good story. Nope. Pardon. All right. All right, the next, this is all too familiar and really, really, really too close to home right now. Emergency situations, wildfires, forest fires, we experience them. This is our hurricane. We don't have hurricanes here, we have earthquakes and wildfires. So if you have some emergency equipment that requires electricity, how are you gonna power that stuff? It's gonna be a diesel generator. Well, as regulations get more and more intense, the diesel generators are not the way to go. If you need them, okay. But if you can go without them, all the better. So if we can show up at an emergency site, bring an EVOX, now you've got the power. You've got all the power you need. If you need more, bring 2. If you need even more than that, bring 4. So, you know, these are rapidly deployable. As you see, this is on a trailer out here. I didn't edit the video well enough, but I could have showed it, the time lapse of the thing pulling up. In reality, 10 minutes, it's dropped off, it's ready to go. It can be set up in a day. We set it up in a day in Texas, literally, a couple hours. Thanks to our crack squad of engineering team out here. More vehicles can come in. I don't know if anyone from DNR is here, but I added a couple of vehicles because I saw a registration for DNR. This is an electric vehicle. The MPS is a mobile power unit that's got a lot of power. It's all battery. It's great. It's got a forklift. It's got a scooper tractor. It's got lots of things that can autonomously go in where people cannot go in. You know, in a forest fire or an emergency situation, they are all electric, which is awesome. But how do you charge it? If you're at a location like this where a forest fire is going on in the middle of nowhere in a rice field up near Yuba City, you're going to need that power. You're not going to be able to get it without a generator or something like the EVOX. All right, so as I touched on a minute ago, the EVOX is a multi-purpose energy solution. Not only is it good for EV fast charging, which is what we're showing here, but also for, you know, starting a microgrid. I like to call it a microgrid base station. It's got the hydrogen fuel cell and the battery. Pardon, it's nice to have that cool wind, but so think of anywhere that you're going to set up the need for power where you can't get enough power. Just like you would do with a traditional way of doing that. Do it clean. Do it with hydrogen. Move into the future and get there. I heard a discussion during the break about how we used to use whale oil, blubber, to light our homes. And I just finished reading the book, The Last Days of Night, about Tesla and Edison and Westinghouse. And we look back, that was 100 years ago. Literally, it was only 100 years ago where we made that transition from burning blubber for candles to electric light. So think of getting off of fossil fuels, think of getting off of diesel, and we are going to look back in 10 years or hopefully less and say, wow, I can't believe we ever used that dirty fuel to create electricity. Now we've got hydrogen, we've got solar, we've got wind, and as I touch on that, we do focus a lot on wind and solar, especially in California because we have it. But wind and solar isn't always available. You can't count on it, and batteries run out. So trying to build resiliency into an electric system without some sort of fuel is just not doable. So keep that in mind. That fuel's got to be something. Hydrogen's the cleanest. As we've heard from the panel, and as you've heard in the news, as you've heard from, RT just got a grant, hydrogen is also coming. We've got a lot of people here that are either producers or big advocates of hydrogen. So keep that in mind. We need a fuel to keep stability with the grid as well. Think of this. Think of 1,000 EVOXs out around the community put in place for rapid development, rapid deployment of EV charging, but now in place as battery energy storage systems and DERs that can also create electricity at 1,000 points throughout the city, all able to feed back to the grid if necessary. That's a little bit in the future. I might be getting ahead of myself, but just consider that. It's a lot more than just a one spot, one time, let's do this fast. If you're building a decentralized grid, you're only doing good for the community and for the grid itself. A little redundant here, but again, back to the multi-purpose grid independent bridge power. That's my focus here is the bridge power. How quickly we can bring 483 phase instead of waiting for the utility to bring it to you. We've got some charging people in the audience. I see that. You've dealt with trying to get power to fast charge things. It's very difficult, if not impossible, unless you happen to already have it, which most people do not. If you've got 483 phase already, you have a reason for it and you're probably using it. Again, the fuel cells are imperative. If you can't rely on solar, you can't rely on wind, the fuel cell and the hydrogen, some sort of fuel, some sort of creation from some sort of fuel is necessary for the grid resiliency to keep your location up. If it's your building, like I said, that grocery store, what if it's a hospital? What if it's, again, a bank or some sort of other critical infrastructure? As we hit 110 here, cooling centers are becoming more and more important. How are you going to keep those up if we've got 110 degree weather and we're doing rolling brownouts or rolling outages? Very important. Inside the EVOX, we do have a battery energy storage system. This particular one has 372 kilowatt hours of battery. You will see that when we do the walk around here. It also has 2 fuel cells. So keep in mind, if one goes down, you still have resiliency. So we've got like 18 levels of resiliency here. Not quite, but there's a lot of resiliency built in. So inside the box, we've got the software, the electrical systems for rectifying and transforming electricity, and the fuel cells. That takes us to how do you control all of this? The energy management system, GEMS, GenCell Energy Management System, is our proprietary software that helps you run all of the devices, but not only your devices inside your EVOX, but also your other SCADA devices throughout your microgrid, if that's what it happens to be, or your entire facility, really. So keep in mind that the GEMS software interoperates with other EMS systems, other DERM systems. It's just one piece of it. I'm going to play a little video so that I don't have to reenact my presentation in Texas. This one's a little edited.
So what is
GEMS. What is an energy management system? It's the software that brings all of these pieces together. Energy management systems can encompass fuel cells, solar arrays, batteries. All of these need to be monitored, especially in an emergency situation. So reliability and resiliency is very, very important. Again, predictive maintenance software can help with that. The software can help you learn when you need to replace something, replace transformers, replace fuel cell stacks, and as we'll talk about in a little bit, replace the fuel. You need to know when that hydrogen, when that fuel can be replaced, because batteries and solar, even wind doesn't blow all the time, not even here. You can't count on that. You can always count on the fuel and the hydrogen. All right, so that's a very truncated version of the emergency management. So, sorry, thank you, Rami. Which takes us on to the vision of GenCell. Obviously, GenCell makes the fuel cell stacks, they make the software, they make the EVOX, but where does it go from there? Right now, we are doing hydrogen to power. You saw the hydrogen tanks out there. You see the fuel cell right here and outside in the EVOX. That's taking hydrogen and making power. The next step, as I mentioned ammonia earlier, ammonia is nitrogen and hydrogen, correct? If you crack that ammonia, take the nitrogen off, release it into the atmosphere, which is already mostly nitrogen, take the hydrogen, run it through the fuel cell. That's great. Why? Because ammonia stores a lot easier, transport a lot easier, and is everywhere. Ammonia is in refrigeration systems and on farms all over the country, all over the world. So ammonia as a fuel is more stable, it's easier to get, it's easier to store, and it stores for a very long time. Also works a little bit better in cold than diesel does in general. So the next level after hydrogen to power is ammonia to power. So that's great. We can buy ammonia. I can go to the grocery store and get it right now. But that's not the vision of GenCell. The vision of GenCell is making green ammonia to store and then to use as a fuel. So how do you make green ammonia? It's real simple. Air and water. Well, not real simple. It's very complicated. But air and water. Air is full of nitrogen and oxygen and some other things. And water has hydrogen in it. So if you can electrolyze water using solar power, wind power, hydropower, if you can electrolyze that, get the hydrogen, set it aside, take the nitrogen out of the air, which is the specialty of GenCell, is removing the nitrogen from the air, mixing it with the hydrogen, and making and storing green ammonia. So once you have all of those steps, you can now see the vision of GenCell. Making the ammonia, storing it, and using it as fuel. Now where can you do this? Anywhere the sun shines, anywhere that there's water, and anywhere that there's air. So if you have wind blowing, sun shining, then you obviously got air, and you have to have water, of course. And then you can store and create power. And I'm talking about the Mojave Desert, the Sahara. Maybe not the Sahara, not a lot of water there. But anywhere you've got water, you can make and store your energy. And what does this do? This allows places that don't have energy now to have a reliable energy source. What can you do with that? Well, you can grow food, you can have a sustainable living in places that right now you can't. So that is the vision of GenCell. Moving on to the next step, we call it green FSG, fuel, store, and generate electricity. I just explained the process a little bit. If you want to hit up any of us at GenCell to get more information, please do. It is a little more complicated than I'm going to go into up here, but we've got some experts, especially sitting over at this table, so please ask them for a little more detail. The last line in here, eliminating fuel transport. Think about that. Eliminating the need to move fuel around. It was mentioned in the panel. It's important. You think about what it takes to get oil to America if we're not producing it here. Think of all the fuel used to get it here. That's important. If you can make your own fuel and store your own fuel, you're golden. You're saving a lot of money, you're saving the environment, and it's, to be energy sovereign is a very important thing. To not rely on some other country or some other source for your energy is very important. We're seeing that throughout the world right now. And also, I heard the panel talking about renewable energy. I grew up in a town called Davis, very green town. We had solar houses, passive solar houses when I was a little kid back in the 70s. When I heard renewable for a lot of my life, I thought, renewable, everybody's tree hugging green, blah, blah, blah. Renewable now, to me, means I can make it. I can't make ammonia, I'm not that advanced, but I can make electricity. I can put solar on my roof. I can recycle those electrons from the sun, store them in a battery, fuel my car. I'm energy sovereign if I do that. I don't have to go to the gas station and buy fuel. So that's a first step towards energy sovereignty. So think about that in terms of how little villages somewhere that currently don't have any communications or any electricity can become energy sovereign. I was talking about Calusa Indian Energy earlier. Same thing they're doing. So it's a good way to look at the future, and if renewable energy kind of doesn't sound like something you want to get into, keep thinking about it that way. You can do it yourself. You can make your own energy. That's more important than paying for it, especially if you're not in SMUT territory. I don't know what your PG&E bills are looking like, but not great. This is our crew that made it to Texas. Of course, the company is a lot bigger than this. And with that, I just want to say thank you, and I'm going to reload here for a second and get a video up. Chaim is not able to be here to do the walkthrough, so I have a video. Chaim is our VP of Customer Support. He was here all week, but he had to continue to travel. We need him elsewhere. I'm going to switch over for a second, and I'll be right back with a video.
Hello everybody, Chaim Moshe here with you, and I'm really happy you are with me today in order to take a quick glance over Gensel new product, the Gensel EVOX. EVOX stands for Electric Vehicle Operation Extender, but in reality it's much more. Much more because this system we designed that can push up to 0.5 megawatt power can actually perform multi-purpose usage. Let me show you. Each and every system equipped with 372 kilowatt hour battery storage that can be charged and discharged at the same rate, meaning we can push out very high power from this system. They are also UL 9540 certified, meaning they are fully certified to meet the NFPA requirement in the United States. They have all the safety requirements, including a full safety protocols connected to our main and central EMS. They are generating 1500 volt DC, which we then take and convert to AC power using those power conversion systems. 3 power conversion systems, each 125, allowing us to convert altogether 375 kilowatt AC power, which is being driven straight into level 2 and level 3 DC fast chargers in both directions. They can charge and discharge the batteries. But they can also do a very important thing. They can be an on-grid and an off-grid. So in case of a backup, we can immediately switch in order to provide backup to the side, backup to the charger, backup to essential, and also to utilities, because they are utility connection grade and also fully certified to connect to the utilities in the United States. The system is designed also as a quick backup system. A quick backup system for disaster recovering management, emergency responders, meaning you can disconnect the system, 4 screws, really 4 screws, take a cam lock connectors, which was designed for a quick connection, connect and access immediately the energy and power, whether it will be 277 480, or if you don't have high voltage and high power lines, you can work with 120 208 as well. You can do more than that. For those teams on site that need some additional outlets, we provided some additional outlets for a quick connection if someone needs to maintain his phone charge or any other equipment, lightning. We have standard outlets as well as RV outlets for higher amps and higher power. Inside the PEC-C, PEC-C stands for Power and Energy Control Center. We have the central AI-driven EMS of Genso. Designed by Genso, we are balancing the power sources against the load taking. We are directly connecting to the charger or the CPMS, the charge point management software, and it allowing us to control fully what's happening on site. It allowing us to predict the demand of each and every car by unique software, again, that we developed, a unique algorithm, an AI-driven algorithm, and to maintain the necessary balancing between the power sources as well as the power off-takers. So in case we need a very long duration operation, a very long duration power, for this purpose the EVOX becomes very, very unique. Because now in this compartment, which was designed to meet OSHA as well as NFPA regulation with all the safety means, we have Genso unique technology. Genso unique technology takes and converts industrial grade hydrogen, we can see it there, along with air. Hydrogen flows into the red line. They both flow into our uniquely designed system, the Genso fuel cell stack, alkaline fuel cell stacks, and converting the chemical energy stored in hydrogen into an electrical energy. The system, as you can see, and you can maybe hear, it's actually designed around the potassium hydroxide, which is the base material. So it means we pick the highest grade material available on the market, which gives the system a 15 years life expectancy. So whenever we need the power, we immediately kick in to supplement and provide the necessary power on site and maintain the operation for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, a week. As long as you have hydrogen on site, we can continue the operation. The beauty about using Genso technology with hydrogen, it's the mere fact we are completely green, meaning the only emission and byproduct is pure water. So just to summarize very quickly, we have a system design which enabled to push 0.5 megawatt from the system, can generate 0.25 megawatt hour up to 2 megawatt hour, depend on the type of fuel cells we have in. For EV fast charging, DC fast charging, level 2, level 3, for backup or emergency responders 24/7 using hydrogen as the main fuel source.
All right, and with that, thank you. That concludes my portion of the presentation. We will move outside. We can walk around, look at the vehicles, look at the EVOX. Please tap any one of the Genso people if you have questions, and we will get them answered for you as quickly as possible. After we get to walk around a little bit, I'll have the food set up and we can come back in and eat. And it's all ready to go? All right, so the food is all ready. If you're starving right now, get something. But otherwise, take this time to get out and look at the equipment, ask questions, and there are drinks over here on this table too. So we look forward to talking to you for the next hour or so. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Any questions from me before I step out of the way and let you get your food and your questions answered? Yes? How much? Talk to Hadar. I'll set up a meeting with him later. It really depends on what your deployment is looking like and how much power you need and when, where, and all that. So I'll follow up with that. Anything else? Yes?
Are there a variety of sizes?
Currently, this is the only size, but yes, in the future we are working on other sizes, bigger batteries, higher production, that sort of thing. And of course, different steps with the ammonia and all of that. That will also be building blocks to a bigger system as well. Yes?
How much power needs to be?
It really depends on how much power you need. So I will have the brochures here. I'll hand them out as you're eating so you can see what the consumption is. Obviously, hydrogen turns into electricity. So how much you need is depending on how long you're running off grid without solar, how much you need to run without your battery. I would consider at this point that the hydrogen is going to be your last resort for power. If you have 208 three-phase, feed the battery with that. If you've got solar, feed it with that first. And then if you need to, you can transition to hydrogen. Hopefully
Just
that's...
to add on that, the specific energy inside of a normal canister of hydrogen is 8 kilowatt hours. It only comes in bundles of 12, and so you can kind of round up and it's going to be about a megawatt per bundle of capacity, so megawatt hour.
And the great thing about hydrogen is you can keep bringing more. Yeah, so you can continue to run as long as you need. You can set this up anytime, anywhere, as quickly as possible, and as long as you can get more hydrogen to the location. You will notice that there are different ways to get hydrogen, even out here. We have some hydrogen trailers out here as well. So we've got a bundle delivered, but then you can also bring those trailers in and out. And then eventually we will get 2 pipelines directly to locations. Maybe not to every home in America, but who knows? We never thought we'd have electricity in every home in America, and now we do. Anything else? Yes, sir.
What is your availability on the hydrogen in terms of supply? Is there any problem with that?
I have absolutely no problem getting the canisters of hydrogen here. I went to Lindy, which is a mile away, and said, hey, do you guys have a bundle of hydrogen? And it was there the next day. So it is available. That's not everywhere. You might not find it in North Dakota right now, but who wants to go to North Dakota right now? I don't. No, nothing. No offense to North Dakota, but yeah, where hydrogen is needed, where the fuel is needed, you're going to see increased abundance of it. You'll see a lot more producers in the next year or two. Right now, someone mentioned Procter & Gamble. I think Procter & Gamble's right across the street from here. They got a lot of hydrogen. Those potato chips you eat, they put it in the oil.
Currently, we have only one hydrogen station in West Side, right?
I believe so. Does anyone know of any other hydrogen stations right now?
The Iwatani site's the only one in the area.
Yeah. So right now we are limited to the one in West Sac. Within a couple of years, there will be 7. Yes. Oh, who wants to answer that question? Is there a shelf life on hydrogen? Hydrogen's first element, right? It's element 1. Yes, it combines with others real quickly. So if you can contain it indefinitely, no, there's no shelf life on it. Ammonia stores a bit better. The canisters that you'll see out here are made of steel and then wrapped in carbon fiber. The ones on the truck and in the trailers. Hydrogen is so small, it leaks out of the steel. And it doesn't get through the carbon fiber that well, but it does brittleize the carbon fiber. So that's a difficult question, but no, technically no shelf life. You will lose it, though. There's seepage. Hopefully you use it fast enough that you don't have to worry about that. I should have gone over to Mike for that one. Is there a shelf life on hydrogen? Nico, is there a shelf life on hydrogen? Yeah, if you put it, yeah, if you store it properly, no. Yeah, you gotta find a way to store it properly. Good question. Anything else? Well, let's refuel our bellies and go get some food, but let's do the walk around first, if you don't mind, so I can make sure that everything's good and set up for you for the food. Go outside, take a look. I'll be out there, but feel free to tap any one of us to ask questions.